Hey there guys, you're joining Roguecub93 on a casual look at the virtual cabin for Friday the 13th, the game. This is just a casual look. I don't really know what I'm doing. I've just watched a couple of videos of other YouTubers doing this and just thought I'd have a look around. Now, the thing I've noticed with other people is they speed through it and you don't really get to look at all the different notices and the information about the game, so I just thought we'd have a casual look through. I hope you enjoy it. I've actually watched the television series when I was younger. It didn't really feature Jason that much. I do intend on reading the novels, but I'm not really a massive comic book reader. But maybe that's something I can look at in the future. See, I didn't know that. This is one of those things that you miss when people are doing speed plays. I thought he was just a generic nerd who features in these type of movies, but I wouldn't really say that he's based on anyone specifically that has featured in the Friday the 13th series. He's usually not chosen unless you know how to play him really well. I mean, he's got good repair stats and stealth, as it says there. And I do enjoy watching Caliber. I don't know if anyone else watches Caliber. He does a good gameplay for LeChapa, usually trolling the Jason, which is pretty funny. I'll definitely have to have a look out for that next time I watch part 3. On the cover there, it's part 7, I think. he's not really my most favourite looking Jason, but I know that he does rank quite highly amongst other fans. I just think compared to part 4 and part 6 to an extent, even though you don't properly see his face, I just think he looks too much like a zombie. See, I find that interesting because if somebody played the original music from the first movie, you would instantly recognise it, even if it's not the noise. You would recognise the sort of dun 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 noise. That was a terrible impression, by the way, I've just realised. See, the entire mythos of Jason Goes to Hell is just awful. The whole thing with the magic dagger, it just has no place in the rest of the movie. It just sort of turns it into how Nightmare on Elm Street developed towards the end, especially in Freddy's Dead, when you had the surprise daughter. But yeah, I really don't like Jason Goes to Hell. I think in the game, he's one of the hardest Jasons to play against. He seems to be everywhere all the time. But the movie, it just has a lot of problems for me. I don't know why the number for that's so long. Surely it would just be 911, but I guess with it being a rural community, you might have a local number. See, I really like the spring break clothing pack. It definitely adds a bit of a different dimension to the game, and I find it quite comical when you see, say, Tiffany running around in that thong and really, really skimpy bra. But yeah, that hammock, I have always wanted to try a hammock like that. It's just so big, you wouldn't like get stuck in the middle of it like a conventional hammock. As usual in video games, you can't actually see your own reflection in the mirror, even though if that was real life and it was steamed up like that, you would still be able to see your reflection. Jenny actually reminds me of the character from part 3. I can't remember her name now, but she's the final girl who, her whole thing is that she was once attacked by Jason in the woods after falling out with her parents. And there's Deborah, probably wondering which college she'll go to. Will she get into Harvard? Will she get into Yale? Or will she have to go to Brown? Her parents will be so disappointed. See, I always find this a really interesting debate because a lot of people think, oh, Jason drowned as a child. There's no way he could have survived that. And therefore, he's already sort of supernatural in the first 4 films before he's killed by Corey Feldman's character, Tommy Jarvis. However, I just feel like there's a possibility he could have ended up on, you know, the opposite side of the lake as a child. He wasn't like normal children who, you know, could think, oh, the camp's back that way and I'll be able to find my own way back. And, you know, there's every possibility that he could have survived in those woods as a fully mortal person. And he grew to be quite a big guy. I mean, if you imagine the character is probably about 6'5", 6'7", and he's quite bulky as well. He could probably take all the attacks and injuries that happened to him from, you know, a machete being slammed into his shoulder, the axe in part 3. I mean, that didn't go deep. Not deep like in part 4 where it almost sliced his skull in half. But after part 4, I do agree that he's 100% supernatural. He's not a living person. He's just driven by the territorial instinct of protecting his home and avenging his mother's death. But that's just my opinion. I know people out there will probably argue that he died as a child. There's no way what I said about him washing up on the shore and not actually drowning. I know that a lot of people will disagree with that. But it just seems like the most likely scenario, unless you want to just say that he's a zombie throughout the whole thing. See, I've heard this before, and I always find it really interesting because, for me, I'm so sensitive to like heat, so to be lit on fire, and I mean, I'm not an expert. I don't really understand how you can be on fire and the flames not be injuring you even 5 seconds in. It just seems odd for me. I mean, I'd love to speak with an expert about it and find out why it doesn't injure you. Like if, you know, you caught fire just any other way.
What was the creepiest part about working on the game?
Oh, for sure, the phone calls.
Okay, sorry, that was great. Can you start over, but this time incorporate the question into your answer?
My bad, yeah. So the creepiest part about working on this game was I get these weird phone calls to my personal phone. We worked on the game for almost, I think it was about 3 years, and every single Friday the 13th we would get these calls from someone. At first I thought it was someone at the studio, Paul or Dan or something, but it had to be like an F-13 fanboy or something. They would use this voice distortion and claim to be Pamela warning us to honor the memory of her son. Sometimes they would just laugh into the phone and hang up, but most of the times they would just, you know, complain about the game taking so long.
That doesn't sound that creepy.
It wasn't until one time I called the number back and heard this.
See, that's creepy. I wouldn't be able to deal with that. But to be honest, I do play pranks like that on my friends all the time. Like, I recently got a new number, and I decided it would be a fun idea to prank my best friend. She didn't react to it the way I thought she would. We're both big fans of the Scream series, so naturally I went with that kind of dialogue. But we're also big fans of the Scary Movie series, and I thought she would immediately get that I was referencing that. However, she didn't. And it got to the point where she threatened to get the police involved, so I called her and owned up to it. But it turned out that she'd been receiving calls and messages from a stranger, and I didn't know about this. But yeah, that's why it caused her a bit of upset. So I felt a bit guilty after that. But to be honest, I thought she would get it straight away, and it would be quite a funny prank. That's interesting. I think that's part 6. I think, for me, he's the scariest of the Jasons, just because that's when he becomes fully zombified, and, you know, he gains a lot of new abilities when he's resurrected, and I just think when the van flips over in the film, after he kills those 2 people, he just punches the door out, and it's just such a fuck you moment. So yeah, I would enjoy that. That would be funny for me, because I do really enjoy the part in Frasier when Martin Crane and Roz in the elevator talking about how they're doing a business deal, or someone's messed up something for them and they need to get rid of them, and then there's the woman behind them who looks terrified. See, I actually really like the sack. It just sort of gives a anonymous look to it. I mean, if you were chased through the woods by someone wearing a sack over their head, you would shit yourself. I just know that a lot of people think it looks a bit silly. See, I wish they had been for the continuity, but then I guess we wouldn't have had amazing locations like Packanack and Higgins Haven, because they weren't in the same location. But I think, like for part 6, when they were back at the lake, well, back at the same camp supposedly, even though it was called Camp Forest Green, it would have looked better, it would have felt more familiar. But I know that the people who run, I can't remember now. Is it Camp Nobisco or something like that? I know that they're really protective about the privacy at the site. Like, they don't like fans of the Friday films going and touring the site because it's an active camp. But that's only really in the summer. I don't really understand why they wouldn't allow it during, you know, like the early months of the year. I don't know. It's odd because you could get so much publicity out of that. You could raise money for the camp by charging people to have tours. I do agree with this. I mean, I'm from the UK, so I don't understand, you know, all the regulations that the MPAA put into, impose on films. But if you watch the Dead Meat series, he does kill cam videos, and he does talk about the sort of quality of the effects as well. You know, a lot of the effects are hidden or done off camera, or certain kills were meant to be more gory and have had to be cut down. I think if you had seen those scenes in the final cut of the movie, it would have made it a lot more scary. See, I guess the game is violent, but, you know, it's called Friday the 13th, the game. If you've seen the films, you know what this game is going to be all about. See, that's a good idea. Although I don't really use firecrackers that much. I think the time it takes for you to throw one on the ground and for Jason to catch up and grab you, the firecrackers might not even be effective because the game doesn't recognize that they're exploding. So yeah, I prefer pen knives. They're a lot a lot more rare in the game now, which is a shame. But I do agree that before, like, every other drawer you could find a pocket knife in, and it was just getting stupid because Jason couldn't catch anybody. See, I remember that kill because she's the first person to try and bribe Jason, and her boyfriend in the scene is the sort of baddie in Ghost with Patrick Swayze. I just think in those situations you should just drive away. Don't get out and try and attack the person who's stood in the middle of the road with a large metal spike. Oh, there's nothing if not dedicated. It's a shame Tom Savini didn't work on every single film. I think they would probably have gotten away with a lot more of the gory, imaginative kills if maybe he'd been on the team every single film, because his kills are just awesome. Well, that's interesting. It just doesn't make sense for Jason to kill a dog, especially considering in part 2 the dog is quite small, it's hardly going to maul him. But yeah, good on Kane Hodder for refusing to actually kick a dog. I think they're the most numerous sort of tool if you're going through the woods, to be honest. So it makes sense. I think this room should just be named the Tom Savini room. It's just full of information about his effects and his life, his experience on the team, on making the first movie. It's funny how this particular kill, it just made it to the final cut when so many other better kills didn't. It would be good to see what the X-rated version would have looked like. Right, I'm gonna wrap this up here, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you know, this was quite impromptu. So I didn't have any information to hand. I just wanted it to be like natural flow of conversation, well, one-way conversation. But maybe in the future I will do a full gameplay version of the virtual cabin. And if you've watched this video, thanks very much. Bye.